Hi friends, hello, hi, how are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Hello and welcome to the channel. Candle of the day is still Bergamot and Fig because I can't find any of my candles. So we're practicing gratitude today because that's what it's called. If you want to burn a candle with me, feel free. Here we go again. So I'm actually not surprised that this video is happening. I definitely knew when I made the Evolution of Tana Mongeau part 1 that that video would get a lot of attention, and I also knew that that video would not be the end of things. I think I even said in the video that it was going to be interesting watching Tana's career from here on out. And while I knew there was going to be a lot to add to this story, I didn't know exactly where this story was going to go, and I'm frankly quite shocked at how things have turned out. I just want to say the Evolution of Tana Mongeau part 1 that I did like 4 years ago is not required for this video, but if you want to know sort of the lore of Tana, I do think you should watch that video or other videos like it just to understand sort of where I'm coming from with part 2, because I talk a lot in this video and kind of hammer home patterns of behavior that Tana shows that shows she just doesn't care at all. That's like the theme of this video. I'm going to say that a million times. She doesn't care. But today we are going to be covering everything that has happened since I made my original Tana Mongeau video back in 2020. So if you're interested in knowing kind of a detailed timeline of Tana Mongeau and my opinion on her actions the last 4 years, then keep watching and we'll jump into the video. Okay. I do just want to pause a moment for my eyeshadow. I'm obsessed with it today. I used a JD Glow Ultra Shimmer shadow that I've had for years, and I'm just like obsessed with how I look. So sorry if I look in the viewfinder a lot. I literally think I look incredible today. Shortly after I made my original video, if you remember, that video kind of ended with the Nessa and Colin situation that was happening, where Simply Nessa 15 and Colin Berry were calling out Tana for racist behavior towards them and instances of discrimination. Shortly after I made that video, Tana did upload an apology video, and this is what I said the apology video was going to be like back in 2020. When she actually does come out with a legitimate apology for this whole situation, based on all of the other apology videos I've watched, I can literally tell you exactly what she's going to say. Talk about how heavily it's been weighing on her. She's going to talk about how she filmed the video at least 10 times and she filmed for 10 hours straight and then she deleted all the footage, and it's the hardest video she's ever had to film, which, by the way, she has said in every single apology video. She's going to talk about the fact that there's no excuses and she's taking accountability, but then she's probably going to make an excuse. And at this point, I think it's just getting old. And that's exactly what happened. This video in particular, though, was kind of weird. The editing was super weird. She like spliced every second of the video to make it together. It was like she couldn't form a complete sentence to be authentic and apologize. And also, I've seen Tana be authentic on camera. We've all seen it. Like, she totally is capable of being authentic and real on camera, but for some reason, when she does her apology videos, they never come off as sincere or like she actually gives a fuck. And I'm pretty sure the reason for that is because she's not sincere and she doesn't actually give a fuck. Now, fans pretty immediately called out this apology video for being terrible because it genuinely was. It was probably up there in one of the worst YouTube apologies I've ever seen. Just like the general lack of not giving a fuck is crazy. And the fact that people waited about 2 months for her to give this apology and then it was so bad, fans were pretty pissed about all of this. And Tana did what she has been known to do, which is go with public opinion. It's not to say that a lot of YouTubers don't do that. I definitely think, especially when a YouTuber is in hot water, they absolutely go based on public opinion and what people are saying to help guide them through the situation. Honestly, the thing that sucks is that if YouTubers did it right, using public opinion to help guide you could be a really beneficial thing, because instead of using it to guide you just to give you a map of what to say, you could be using it to guide you to educate yourself and figure out why what you did was actually wrong and do some like introspection on why it was actually wrong based on public opinion. But instead of doing that, what Tana does is she just goes with public opinion to regurgitate everything that they said. So after this video came out and people were telling her it was terrible, she basically backtracked on the video and said, "You're right, this video was terrible," and gave like a Twitter apology to Colin. It's weird to me that this is a pattern of behavior for her where she puts out an apology or puts out a statement and then pretty much immediately backtracks on it when it goes super horribly. But regardless of the backtracking and all of that, that original video just came off as so insincere and fake. and honestly is just very telling of sort of what's going to happen for the next 4 years. This is going to be the point of the video, and I apologize for how much I'm going to say this, but really what this video shows and what her actions after the video show, just flip-flopping and being wishy-washy and not having a real stance on her behavior, what this shows is that she doesn't care. Like, she doesn't care that her apology was bad. She doesn't care that she was racist. She doesn't care that she hurt 2 other creators when they were just starting out in their careers. Like, she doesn't care about any of that. What she cares about is making money off of her fan base. And that is evident with the content that she posts and the apologies that she continues to post. She never actually cares. Now, after this video was posted, Tana honestly didn't post for a little while. She took a few months off of YouTube. She was still posting on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram and other apps, so there weren't as many comments towards her on her posts. Now, in December of 2020, Tana posted the Mindy video, which this isn't super important, but it's important to like the story and the context of how everything happened. Basically, Tana posted a story time where she said that her best friend at the time, she like hooked up with a guy that she had been hooking up with in her own home, and she was super pissed, so she made this YouTube video story time about it. Inevitably, everybody figured out that the girl in the video who Tana called Mindy was Brooke Schoenfield. And if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because in the lore of Tana Mongeau, she becomes very important. I mention this incident because I think it's interesting that Tana has a history of punching down on people and posting story times about people who have no social media presence, and then her fans go and attack them. I know people think that YouTubers don't get threats, and I know people think that that's like a joke or something YouTubers just say to deflect from bad behavior. And while I will say, like, I don't think it's appropriate to use it as an excuse for why people should stop being mad at you, I do think it's a real thing that happens. And Tana, being such a large presence on the internet, basically attacking someone, and she knew her fans were going to find out. Her fans always find out who her story time's about. I don't think there's ever been a story time that her fans haven't figured it out. Threats and people telling her to off herself. She knew all of that was going to end in that way, and she just didn't care. And I think it just poses the question of, is it ethical to be punching down in that way and using your social media presence to actively hurt just normal everyday people? I'm kind of the opinion that no, you shouldn't use your massive platform to go and bully other people. I think that that is unethical and a bad use of a platform, but that's also just my opinion. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think about if this is actually behavior that is something we should be promoting and being like, yeah, good on you, girl, like, spill the tea. Or should we be like, hey, maybe don't send your millions of fans to go hate on a person? Personally, I think it's irresponsible to use your platform that way, and I also think it shows that Tana is not afraid to be kind of a bully. I feel like people don't see her actions as bullying because everybody's just so entranced by like the tea and the story time, so all of the comments are on her side and like hyping her up for making a video like that, and she gets actively rewarded for making content like that. But I think if we're looking at her as a person, it speaks to the fact that, again, she doesn't care that she's actively sending all of this massive amounts of hate to people who really didn't do much wrong, except that they kind of wronged her. Wronging someone in your personal life doesn't mean you should go on the internet and drag that person publicly. Like, do you know how many times I've been wronged in my life, and never once have I been like, oh my god, I should go to my YouTube channel and just shit on this person who has like nothing to do with the fucking internet. No, because it's weird. It's just weird behavior. It shows a lack of serious maturity, which it doesn't surprise me with Tana, but it also just shows a kind of a mean streak, like a bullying streak, and I think that that's really interesting. Also, around this time, Tana switched management, which does become kind of important. At the time, I think this was pretty surprising to fans because her previous manager, Jordan Warona, had actually been a pretty large part of a lot of her content. She talked about him a lot in videos. He was in her MTV reality show. So this was kind of surprising to fans. However, this was about 6 months after that apology video. I'm going to put that in air quotes because I don't think that was a real apology at all. After that apology video, she did switch managers. So I do think that video and the response to that she got probably had something to do with this. And also just the fact that she never seems to be able to make the right response to a scandal. She's always really heavily criticized for her videos in response to things, because for the most part, they're all bullshit. That's why. But anyway, she started working with a new manager, and I do just want to talk about this quickly because I do think this also becomes kind of important later. We're going to building brick by brick the lore of Tana and what happens, but this switchover of new management also started a new sort of trend of content. I don't want to call it like she was on a health kick or something, but she started posting a lot with like a life coach and started making content about being healthier and living a healthier lifestyle. And it seemed like this was a direct influence of the new management she was working for. Now, Tana moved over to DWE Talent Management with David Weintraub. And David Weintraub is actually a super interesting person. I think he's shady as hell, but I'm curious. Really think it's like interesting who he is. David Weintraub actually worked at Death Row Records in the 90s when he was 18, which is actually one of his like bigger claim to fames, is just that he worked there. He's gone on multiple podcasts and talked about his experiences doing that. He also had a reality show in 2008 with a couple of his friends where the premise was them partying in Las Vegas. Could only find very short clips of this show, but it only lasted one season. I can't imagine it was a hit. He went on to produce a bunch of television and movies that I had never seen, so I didn't include any of them. And then he started managing for basically D-list celebrities, like reality TV show celebrities. He was Scott Disick's manager for a while, but they had a huge falling out. Created DWE Management in 2016, kind of with the intention of continuing to work with these reality stars and manage these reality TV people. But when he started working with Tana, he switched over to being much more of a social media manager. He actually said in an interview that social media influencers make significantly more than any of the rappers or reality TV show stars that he has on his sort of roster of people. So it makes sense that he's heavily leaning into social media because there is a lot of money there. I also will say he was really I don't want to be mean when I say this, but he was really only working with like D-list celebrities at best. And I would argue that even the biggest influencer in the world is still like a D-list celebrity in that way. So he's basically just switched genres, but is working with the same caliber of people. Based on his online presence, it seems like David is the type of person who really likes himself, and there's nothing wrong with that. But here's the thing, I just find this man, I'll tell you more later because we're going to talk about Tana's Angels towards the end of the video. And really this new management change is important because after this flip happened, there was a huge uptick in sort of scamming happening from Tana Mongeau. And I think that David is behind a lot of these ideas that came out that really were just product scams or PR moves or whatever. I think he's sort of the one behind a lot of this newer scamming that's been happening with Tana. So this new management happened, and then Tana for the rest of 2020 and beginning of 2021 really started posting a lot less on YouTube and started posting way more on TikTok. But she was honestly not really super online, especially in the YouTube space, for about 6 months. And then she started the Canceled podcast. I just want to say, like, I think the Canceled podcast is super not interesting, but just like even the name alone, I just feel like that would make me sad. I don't know how she feels, but to use your literal own apology videos in memes for your intro of your podcast and to call your podcast canceled because you have done so many morally reprehensible things that people have had to continually call you out for, and you never change and you never learn, and now your brand is just a person who continually gets canceled and like a cockroach survives. That would make me so sad. If my legacy on the internet, I wonder about these things sometimes. I'm like, is she sad that her I mean, I don't really care if she's sad because she made her bed, but it's like, is she sad that her legacy on the internet is being this like really racist, problematic, mean person? Is that like a good feeling for her? I don't know. It must be, because why would you call your podcast canceled and base it around you being scandalous and it's not even scandalous. It's like you're just being flippant and arrogant and rude, and that's your whole brand now, and that's your podcast. There have been 2 iterations. I just think that's weird. Like, I don't know. There's been 2 iterations of the canceled podcast. The first one that started in 2021 was with Hunter Moreno, who left after like 4 episodes, and Brooke Schofield, who was Mindy. Now, when Brooke started the podcast with Tana, people were pretty surprised because they never really addressed the whole Brooke and Mindy thing. And that's what I think is super interesting. Like, Tana brought all this beef to the internet, basically shit on this girl, told her to go fuck herself, had all of her fans attack her online, forcing her to make a video defending herself. And now, because Tana has clout, Brooke is just on this podcast with her, even though she did all of that to her. And we're going to get more into Brooke in a little bit, but the first iteration of the canceled podcast was honestly just boring. Had like a professional backdrop and professional mics and everything like that. So from a logistics standpoint, it looked really good, but the actual content was pretty boring. And I think that's really interesting because Tana was working with Paragon Collective, which is basically just an umbrella company. They put up all the money for the podcast, they make the set, they do everything, and then in return, they get a profit from the podcast. So if you're wanting to start a podcast and you're already famous, brands will usually pay for your setup and everything to help you get started, just if they get a cut from it. So they were working with Paragon, but it seems like her and Paragon had a huge falling out. Interestingly, Paragon also hosts the Just Trish podcast, which is interesting because Tana and Trish are such good friends, apparently, which, again, birds of a feather. But I think there was some drama that happened with Paragon Collective because for about a year, the canceled podcast just randomly stopped after 28 episodes. The speculation, based on what Tana and Brooke said, is that there was some sort of falling out with this company because they wouldn't let them post what they actually wanted to post. And this caused them to make a second iteration of the canceled podcast, which is just Tana and Brooke sitting on a couch, like in their home. Seems a little bit more lax. And then basically talking about YouTuber and influencer drama and things that happen in their life. I will say the second iteration of the canceled podcast is definitely a little bit more interesting. It seems like they're actually able to not have to censor themselves more. So it was more interesting to watch. But the content of the podcast is basically just shit talking people, telling stories from their lives. And that's the concept of the podcast. And the canceled podcast does go over really well with her fans. Like, people really seem to enjoy it. I think they enjoy that they get these behind the scenes look at what her life is actually like, and they're getting more content and information from her than they have had in years, because she really stopped posting to her main YouTube channel. She rarely posts there anymore. She rarely updates anyone there. So if you're a fan of Tana's and you want to know what's going on in her life and you want to know what's happening, you could watch the canceled podcast. Now, when Tana started the canceled podcast sort of in 2021 going into 2022, there were definitely a bunch of small scandals that happened. She got into beef with Cole Kerrigan, which I don't care about. She got into beef with Dr. Phil because Michael Weiss went on the show to talk about TanaCon, and she got in random beef with the Kardashians on Twitter. Like, she was just doing all this random, really on Twitter, this random stuff that was just getting her name out there. And I feel like these little scandals Tana does absolutely on purpose. I think she starts beef with people or opens her mouth about drama so much because it definitely is her brand. Her podcast is called Canceled. Like, at this point, she's just embraced that this is her brand, is being kind of this like person who's unafraid to say anything. She'll call anyone out and hold anyone accountable unless it's her, and then she absolutely can't do that. But all of these little like scandals that happen with her just boost her career even more, gets her name out there, it gets her on the drama channels. Like, all of these little things are purposeful and meant to happen to keep her career going in some way, because without the drama and without the scandal, she doesn't have a career. Like, if you look at the trajectory of her career and everything that's happened, she does not have a career if she doesn't have something scandalous happening. It's not her being accused of being morally reprehensible, like with the racism accusations. It's her basically picking at low-hanging fruit and making fun of or talking shit on people who also have fucked up. And this is kind of a pattern with Tana, is she does call a lot of people out for a lot of different things. She's been doing this forever. And I think that's just really funny to watch and see, because number one, it does help her. Like, I can't deny, I wish it didn't, but it does. It helps her, boosts her career. And the other thing is, she lives in like a mansion made of glass. Like, she is in a glass house that is probably one of the biggest in YouTube history. And she just throws boulders even though her house is like covered in cracks and so close to falling down. And eventually it is going to be too much, and there is going to be too much drama surrounding her for anyone to want to support her. At least that's my hypothesis. Oh my God, I have to talk about Dizzy. Okay, here's the tea. Tana came out with a wine brand called Dizzy Wine, and T-Spill actually exposed that a brand called Elixies? I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it's basically a private labeled wine brand. Now, Tana and her new manager both kind of went on these spiels about how they tried so many grapes and they did so many tests and they worked so hard on everything. But the reality is the wine that she made was basically just private labeled. She picked a random wine they already had and put her own custom label on it, and that was Dizzy Wine. And this is a pattern with Tana continually. Every time she has a product out, she is the one that says, I did everything. I picked the grapes from the vines myself for the wine. I became a professional sommelier. Just like, she literally plays up so hard how much effort she put into it and how hard she tried on the brand. Here's the tea about Dizzy. I actually tried Dizzy. This was back when I was drinking. This product came out and I was like, I literally have to try this. Her products are so bad all the time. I have to know if this is bad or good. So I bought one. I bought a 6-pack. This product was so unbelievably bad. I'm not kidding. It was disgusting. I would have friends come over and I would make them try it because I wanted to know if I was crazy and thinking that it was like one of the worst drinks I've ever had, and nobody liked it. Every single person, every single friend I have that tried this drink told me it was fucking disgusting and they hated it. It was just bad wine, which isn't surprising because it was literally just private labeled cheap ass wine that she put in some cans. And the thing about Tana that I think is crazy is that every time she puts out a bad product, like when she put out her lingerie brand line, whatever the fuck she was doing, that everything came and had holes and was very obviously from like Alibaba. Her perfume brand, which people found out the bottles were just Alibaba bottles, and she used a private label perfume company to create the scent. Tana does this continually with all of her products. None of her products I think that she ever puts out could be trusted. But the thing that blows my mind about it is in the beginning when she's trying to market the product, she says how hard she worked on it, how much effort she put in, all of these things, right? And then when the product inevitably is terrible and she is called out and people are mad because they spent their hard-earned money on something that's absolute garbage, Tana then goes into defensive mode and says, I had no idea about that. I had no idea that anything like that was happening. I had really no part in it, actually. Like, I trusted the wrong people. She always blames someone else. At a certain point, you have to realize that that's bullshit. You have to realize that she knows she's putting out shitty products. She just doesn't care. I think Tana has a reputation with her fan base of like, people are like, oh my God, she loves us so much. She cares about us so much because she says she loves them all the time. But it's like, Tana doesn't love you. Tana doesn't care about you, because if she did, she would actually be working to put out genuine products that are actually good instead of just putting her name on a random private labeled shit and trying to brand it to you like it's something special. If she loved her fans and cared about her fans as much as she says she does, she wouldn't pull shit like this. And that's just the reality of the situation. This was more proven that she doesn't give a fuck about anyone but herself with the Jeff Wittek situation. So if you don't know who Jeff Wittek is, very abridged version of the story, he used to be on the Vlog Squad, and he actually was the one that David Dobrik was driving the excavator, and he smashed Jeff into the excavator and almost killed him. So right now there's a very huge lawsuit happening between Jeff Wittek and David Dobrik, and Tana is allegedly very, very good friends with Jeff Wittek. They've made a ton of content together. They've done a bunch of podcasts together. They like really post a lot, and she says he's like her best friend and all of these things, right? This was a really small thing. I don't think anybody even really talked about this happening, but I found out about it and I was like, wow, this again just speaks to her fucking character. Jeff actually called Tana out on his podcast while Tana was talking shit about David Dobrik all the time and supporting Jeff publicly and telling everyone that Jeff was in the right and fuck David, which was actually like the correct take and the right thing to do. Again, it was the public opinion that people were telling her that she should be done with David and be friends with Jeff. We'll talk like that. I can't get into it again about how public opinion just shapes everything that this woman does. But Tana went to the opening of David Dobrik's pizza shop and got posted posted by David Dobrik's team promoting and supporting his brand. And Jeff was like, why the fuck would you even go there? Why the fuck would you even be a part of it? And Tana's defense was to basically repeat what he had just said back to her, which was like, you're right, I shouldn't have gone there. That was so stupid. I'm so sorry. Which is literally how she apologizes. She just regurgitates what the person said and what she did wrong, and then adds, I'm sorry at the end of it. And that's how she apologizes for things. And I know this is a little thing and a little thing to happen, but again, I just think that it really, really, really speaks to her character and discusses how even someone who is allegedly one of her closest friends, she has no loyalty to them because at the end of the day, she is more important. Her showing face at an event was more important than supporting her friend who is actively in a lawsuit against the person who owns the business. She doesn't even care about the feelings of her close friends because as long as she can benefit from something, that's all that matters to her. And like Jeff forgave her, whatever, he didn't like end the friendship over it. I think I would have. That's crazy. I guess I wouldn't have ended a friendship maybe. I don't know. That's crazy to literally go, this person has an active lawsuit against him, to go to that person's pizza shop opening and then get posted by the brand, which is promoting the brand, helping the brand out more. I really do find that to be like crazy behavior. Yeah. I think it just I think it speaks to her character. Now, a lot of this stuff that we're about to talk about is stuff that happened pretty recently, but I just still think it's important to talk about. I do briefly want to talk about the Cody Co situation. This video is definitely much more focused on these scandals of Tana Mongeau, but I think it's very important to also bring up the fact that even though I don't necessarily believe her to be a good person, she can still be a victim of something horrific happening to her, and that's what happened. Evidence came out that Cody Co, when he was 25, at Tana Mongeau when she was 17 years old. You cannot be a 17-year-old consenting to have sex with a 25-year-old. That's not how that works. It is illegal and it's incredibly fucked up. And I believe that this happened to her. I feel like a lot of people were like, we don't believe that this happened. There's evidence. There's so much evidence that this event took place. She talked about it a couple years ago, number one. It really only became a big deal kind of recently. And other YouTubers had come and said at the time that this happened, said it happened. Cody Co literally resigned from his company because of this. I don't think he would have done that if this information wasn't true. I just think it really speaks to the fact that a victim of something doesn't have to be a perfect person. Like, she still can have something horrible like that happen to her, and she should still be supported through that situation, especially because so often men in that situation are the ones that come out on top because people don't believe women. And also Cody Co is a lot more commercially likable than Tana Mongeau is. He had a lot of fans that really loved him and thought he was amazing. So I get why it's kind of hard when that illusion is shattered of a person, but to blame Tana or victim blame her or do anything of that sort is just fucking crazy. Like, this event obviously took place. It obviously happened. And to do anything but support her in that situation, I think is fucked up. You can be wrong a million times and still be right. This situation is incredibly fucked up that this happened to her. I feel terrible that it happened to her. And I think Cody Co deserves every single bad thing that is happening to him right now as a result of this, because I think he's a trash piece of shit person. So I did just want to discuss that because I don't think it's fair the amount of hate and criticism she got for coming out about being a victim of something. Like, the victim blaming I was seeing online was sickening, and I hate how much people just hate women and always side with men. So I just wanted to talk about that briefly because that did happen, and I don't think that's fair to her. Like, I think that's fucked up. No matter what you think about a person, they can still be a victim of something, and they don't have to be a perfect person to have something terrible happen to them, period. Sorry, that type of stuff gets me so heated. I get so just mad. I've had so much personal experience with sexual assault, and I just think, like, I don't understand. I might cut this out, honestly, but I don't understand how people can just be like, well, I kind of like this person's personality on the internet, so I'm gonna still support them even though they literally, like, assaulted a girl. What? We hate victims that much. We hate women that much that we're just gonna support someone who basically has admitted to doing it by resigning from his own fucking company. I don't know. I have a lot of feelings about that. Anyway, now we're going to get into Brooke's tweets. And I'm not going to focus so much on Brooke's role in this because this video is about Tana. But I think if you've watched even just this video of me, you know that I think her actions are reprehensible. And I think she's an inherently problematic person. And I think her apology video didn't mean shit. I also think Brooke does not care. So that's my opinion on Brooke. But back in August, a bunch of old tweets came out from her that are just like so racist, so homophobic, so incredibly problematic. She tweeted about the George Zimmerman case and was like, that wasn't an act of racism. Crazy shit. Like absolutely wild things to be tweeting publicly and show her kind of true thoughts on situations. Like these weren't just like, I don't even know how to describe how bad these were. Like, they're very, very bad tweets. I'm going to put them up on the screen, but they're terrible. Now, these tweets came out right after Brooke and Tana had gotten into some beef with Alyssa Violet. Alyssa Violet basically said Tana was a bully, and Tana and Brooke responded, calling her the meanest girl in LA. Alyssa made a video responding to all of that, and they were in all of this high-profile beef, and then the tweets came out. Obviously, a lot of people wanted to know what Tana thought about this situation because Tana and Brooke are co-hosts, and they are allegedly, like, best friends. So everybody wanted to know what Tana was thinking. When Brooke posted her first apology video on TikTok, Tana commented under that video, "We grew up bad, I love you." I think that's absolutely a crazy fucking thing to say. I actually don't believe that that is something she put in a comment and thought was acceptable to post. Like, I'm so shocked by that decision. Immediately she got called out for this, and she made a canceled podcast episode by herself without Brooke. Made it very clear that it was her choice that Brooke was not there, when I'm pretty sure that was probably her team and her management and this shady David guy making this decision for her. She made a podcast episode where she basically said, I posted that comment, and as soon as I did, I immediately regretted it. And it's like, no, babes, you didn't immediately regret the comment. You meant the comment. That was your actual thoughts and feelings about the situation is what you posted. You meant that comment. You immediately regretted that comment, not because you knew it was a weird thing to post and a weird defense of a person's actions. You immediately regretted that comment because everything underneath that comment was people shitting on her. I think the old tweet situation that happened is actually really interesting because honestly, for the first time in a while, her comments were very split. A lot of people were like saying she shouldn't have thrown Brooke under the bus, especially because she has her own history of racism, which I completely agree with that line of thought. Like, not even really bring up your own history, I think is crazy, and just talk about what Brooke did was wrong. And again, this video came off as incredibly inauthentic, I think is why the other group of comments were basically saying this is a terrible video, this is a terrible apology, you should be being harder on Brooke, you should be being harder on this situation. And Tana ended up listening to the comments that said she shouldn't throw Brooke under the bus. About 3 weeks after the scandal happened, they started posting on the canceled podcast again and have basically returned to business as usual now. And again, it just shows this pattern of behavior that has been seen time and time again with Tana Mongeau, where she just doesn't take actual real accountability for literally any of her actions. And I think this situation just really hammers home for me that she doesn't care what she or her friends do. She doesn't care as long as it doesn't impact the income that she is making. And the canceled podcast is still getting fairly consistent views. It's getting over 1 million views an episode on YouTube. Who knows how many downloads it's getting on Spotify and podcast apps and things like that. Doing pretty fucking well, despite all of this scandal that surrounded Brooke and Tana. This was even more proven that she doesn't give a singular fuck about these Brooke tweets when they posted a video very recently of them in Baltimore. They made a TikTok where they were like, the people of Baltimore don't like us. And it's like, yeah, 1 month ago, everything racist that you ever said on Twitter came to light. Of course the people of Baltimore don't fucking like you. No shit, Sherlock. How tone deaf and stupid do you have to be to go through something like that, but really scrape by with it? Like, barely get real called out for all of that shit. Like, Brooke was getting kind of canceled, but Tana really didn't face any repercussions from that shit. And to then a month later post a TikTok and be like, Baltimore doesn't like us, this city doesn't like us. Yeah, fucking duh. How tone deaf do you have to be to post a fucking video like that? Really want to get in now to Tana's Angels, which is kind of the newest scandal that a lot of people have been talking about and a lot of people have been weighing in on. We're actually going back in the timeline just a little bit because Tana's Angels was technically launched in 2021, but recently the controversy around it has definitely been heightened. So that's why a lot of people are talking about it now. When Tana's Angels first launched, I did see the post that she made about it, and I did think it was fucking weird, the whole concept, but I didn't know how kind of sinister this whole thing actually is till I researched it recently. So it was launched in 2021, and the concept was that Tana Mongeau was starting her own subset of a pre-existing talent agency, which was Unruly Agencies, which is owned by Tara Electra, who's basically like an internet personality person who started her own company and is friends with Tana. It seems like the two of them formed this Tana's Angel agency thing. So the premise of Tana's Angels was that Tana was going to be mentoring people and content creators who wanted to do OnlyFans work. Now, OnlyFans agencies, I think based on the TikToks I've seen, I actually will post a couple of them down below because there was a few really good ones about sort of the realities of working in OnlyFans and how predatory these OnlyFans agencies can be. Basically how it was going to work was Tana was allegedly supposed to be mentoring all of these young women on how to do OnlyFans and how to make it big and become like a multi-millionaire through social media, right? Like Tana was going to guide everyone under this Unruly agency. What actually ended up happening was the people that submitted and were accepted were just signed to Unruly agency, who was basically just having them make their own content and then taking a certain percentage of the income that they made off of OnlyFans. Tana had no real part in it. Yet again, she just slapped her name on something and basically was promoting herself as like a glorified pimp. She's taking money from people who are working hard on their own content and not giving anything in return for them to be doing that. Now, Unruly Agencies is actually being sued for Tana's Angels. A lot of people have come forward and said that they had a horrific experience working with them. A lot of people have come forward and said that there were photos posted without their consent onto their OnlyFans or public social media pages. People have made TikToks talking about their experience being in Tana's Angels and how it was basically just a gigantic scam to get money from smaller content creators who are trying their best to become more famous and more relevant. One of the women actually won their lawsuit against Unruly Agencies so far, and the other ones are actively in the works. Now, Tana was confronted about this Tana's Angel controversy by The Cut, who did an interesting article on her. I'll link it down below. But in that article, she basically just, again, did what she always does, which is claim ignorance, because she doesn't fucking care. She'll put her name on anything, even if now it's actively hurting her real life fans and hurting their income and potential to be successful on social media. She said she had no idea about any of that. She would have to look into it, and then said that's shitty about the situation. I think your fans getting scammed out of thousands of dollars and being posted to pages without their permission, especially explicit photos without their permission, is absolutely wild to just be like, well, that's shitty when you hear that information. And also her not knowing that information doesn't make any sense because she's literally friends with Tara Electra. They were friends. That's why they started this agency thing together. She absolutely knows everything that's going on. She's not fucking stupid. She likes to pretend she's stupid when she gets called out for things, but she's not stupid. You can't constantly just say you don't know what's going on as an excuse for why you have bad products and bad business practice. Eventually, it's like, then stop putting shit out. Stop posting anything. Stop promoting anything. I also think there's a whole conversation to be had here about Tana promoting people doing OnlyFans and trying to make people sign up for OnlyFans to be like her. I think OnlyFans is legitimate work. I think that sex work is legitimate work. I don't think there should be any sort of stigmas around that type of work. I'm fully supportive of it. I think it should be decriminalized. Like, I'm very pro sex work and pro using OnlyFans as a way to boost your career. And like, I think it's legitimate work, 100%. But this is real life and there are real stigmas around it. There are real things that can happen to you. It can put you in dangerous situations. There are real life consequences to starting an OnlyFans, which a lot of creators who are on OnlyFans have talked about, that there are things you should know before you join and make that decision for yourself. And Tana did not promote OnlyFans in that way. She wasn't saying, hey, like, this is a personal decision, but if you do want help, you can apply to this. She literally said, you'll become a multimillionaire and be one of my angels, and I'll work with you closely if you start posting on OnlyFans. Like, that's how I'm gonna be close to you, basically. She was offering a way for her fans to get even closer to her and basically become like her. She was telling everybody that they could be just like her if they signed up through Tana's angel agency. And I'm sorry to use this word again, but it's just so problematic to be promoting something like that without also doing your due diligence to talk about what could be the downside of doing something like that. Now, also in this Cut interview, she said that the company was basically defunct and that she never had any participation in it, which means that she never intended to have any participation in it. And again, it's just the playing ignorance of all of it. She's done that with the Jake Paul wedding. She did that when she claimed that she didn't know that the N-word, what the N-word meant, which is, again, still blows my mind, that video. She claims that about the comment she made under Brooke's post. We can go back years and we can go back days and talk about how she plays ignorance on things. This type of behavior is so transparent and happens so frequently with Tana that it's like you can literally predict exactly what the reaction and response is going to be at this point when the next scandal happens, because it will continue to happen because she continues to not fucking care. She does not care about the people she hurts. If she cared, she would have never even made an OnlyFans agency in the first place, which are inherently predatory and take way too high a percentage of creators' work and forces them into contracts when they're small creators. So when they're big creators, they can profit so heavily off them and leave the actual creators with basically no money left over after OnlyFans and the agency takes their cut. They're predatory and they're horrible. This is just a small thing for any creators. Don't ever sign something that says you're going to give a portion of your profit to that company. That's absolutely crazy. Portion of profit for your content to that company. That is crazy. Do not sign up for companies like that. They are scams. They are just there to take your fucking money and do nothing to actually help you. And Tana knows that because she's been in this industry for 10 fucking years, and yet still here we are with her doing her basically own scam company to scam her fans out of hard-earned money after promoting and telling them to create OnlyFans accounts, but only through her so she can make money off of what they're doing. I also would wonder how much money Tana actually made off of this deal. Like, did she just get paid up front, or was she also a part of the people who were actively making money off this content that her fans were creating for her? And the crazy thing is, Tana doesn't even use OnlyFans anymore. She says that in the article. She's like, I don't even post on OnlyFans anymore. And she was allegedly head of an agency that was supposed to guide people on how to become OnlyFans stars. Absolutely crazy. People are comparing her to a glorified pimp, and like, honestly, yeah, that's what she was. Tana's Angels, I would argue, is one of the like worst things that she's done in terms of fucking over her fans. It's one thing to have products that you put out that are trash, that you promoted and like had your fans spend money on, because a lot of influencers do that. They put out products or they promote products that are actively bad. Like, that's just a thing that happens. I feel like we have to accept. Tana's agency is actively taking money from sex workers in an unethical way who are her fans and signed up because of her, and she doesn't fucking care. She doesn't care. In reality, I think what Tana has done to keep her relevance is by switching to TikTok, she started targeting a lot of the younger audience because a lot of younger people are on TikTok. I think a lot of her OG fans from years ago, a lot of them have aged out of her. They have really seen a lot of the problematic behavior. They've grown up. They just don't relate to her anymore. So I think she aged out from a lot of her previous fans, but by joining TikTok at the time she did and becoming so popular on the app with her pre-existing platform, I think that really helped her reach a brand new audience who really aren't, number one, are just young and don't really know a lot of what's going on with stuff like this. And number two, people who just don't know about her past because they weren't on the internet when it happened because they're young kids. And this is actually why I say that Tana is similar to Paris Hilton in the sense that she just keeps evolving and growing and doing things that are different to distract from all the horrible stuff that she's done. Like, that's literally all she does. Her entire gig at this point is just to distract from all the shady shit that's been going on with her. The only real difference in Tana from 4 years ago and Tana now is that she has a like stable boyfriend that she's been dating. Like, that's literally the only difference. Everything else is the same. And honestly, my last video, I think I was a lot more optimistic. I think I was a lot more like, I want the best for her. When I rewatched that video, I think I was very like not as angry, I guess, about the situation, but I think it's because I was hoping for change and evolution. Like, I was still hopeful that she could become this really great influence for her generation because she has the platform to do so. And I was like hopeful for that. And I think now it's just like nothing has fucking changed. She does the same stuff over and over and over again. Nothing has changed and she doesn't care. So it's really at this point just like a huge disappointment because it's like you have this huge platform that you could be doing so much with, and instead you're choosing to use it to use and manipulate your fans. And that's it. Like, that's your whole gig. That's just sad to me. It's just the same shit over and over again. It's just her and her gigantic glass house that one day is going to crack. It's going to break. Like, it's going to crumble around her 100%. You can't keep just hiding behind everything and doing all this shit for this long without people eventually starting to catch on and be absolutely over your bullshit. Like, one day she's going to take it too far. I don't know what that is going to be. I'm actually scared for what that's going to be because this stuff has progressively been getting worse and worse and worse over the years. It's getting shadier and sketchier. And it's also like, I think a lot of it has to do with the manager that she has and the people that she's working with. I think it's a very sinister thing that's going on and I don't like it. I feel like things are about to get so much worse and she's going to do something that really crosses a line, and I think that's when things are going to crumble for her. Like, that's my prediction of what's going to happen. But based on her behavior of the past 4 years, all I have to say about the evolution of Tana Mongeau is that there hasn't been one. There's been no change. There's been no growth. There's been no showing of actually caring or giving a shit about anything but herself. She doesn't care about her fans getting hurt. She doesn't care about her fans wasting their money. She doesn't care that she's been racist. She doesn't care that her friends are racist. She does not fucking care, and that's the end of the video, frankly. Let me know what your guys' opinion is down below. I am curious to know what you guys think. Am I being too hard on her? I don't think I'm being hard enough on her, frankly. Like, I'm so over this person at this point. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm just so over it. I'm really interested to know your guys' thoughts on all of these different things that have happened on every scandal, whatever. Please let me know what you think down below. I'm super interested to know what you guys have to say about it. I love you guys so much. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, or just subscribe, or do neither. I'm honestly just so happy you're here watching. Thank you for being here. My social media, including my Instagram and TikTok, which I'm really trying to grow, will be linked down below. And my social justice spotlight, which is down below. Please remember to register to vote and support our friends over in Palestine right now. And yeah, I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!